Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, in a final ruling, Egypt's top court finds former leader Hosni Mubarak innocent for the murder of hundreds of protesters during the 2011 revolution. Also, we want our land, as reparation talks between Namibia's Herero tribespeople and Germany continue over the genocide of around 100,000 Africans in the early 20th century. An apology on the table from Berlin, but it says it's not in a position to hand over land. And a casting call from Calliwood. We head to the southern Nigerian city of Calabar and take a look at the budding film industry there. Producers say that they're ready to go global. But first, former Egyptian leader Hosni Mubarak's been found innocent in the killing of 239 protesters during the 2011 uprising that ended his 30-year rule. The ruling by the country's top appeals court comes after Mubarak's original sentencing to life in prison in 2012 was reversed after the case against him was dropped at retrial. That was followed by another appeal by the public prosecutor that led to Thursday's finding. The 88-year-old has always said that he's innocent of failing to take action to prevent the demonstrators' deaths. Alexandre Bruchanti brings us more from Cairo.
That was a problem raised by experts from the beginning, saying that, in fact, if we go through the normal channels of justice, it will be very difficult to prove that he was guilty. They instead wanted to have a sort of revolutionary court to judge him on the political level. But the SCAF, the Supreme Council for Armed Forces, that was in power at that time, decided that normal justice will make Egypt able to get back the money of Mubarak that was abroad, and that's why they went with that trial. But according to other experts, in fact, it was a way to calm down people, and they knew that this sort of case would take between 2 and 3 years in front of courts, and people would calm down by that time.
Now, Alex, the courts also rejected victims' demands for civil suits. Do they have any other options open in trying to get justice for those killed now?
No, there are no more options for anything now. In fact, Mubarak is totally cleared from any problem now. In fact, Mubarak could, according to some people on social media, he could even be a candidate for 2018 presidential elections. He cannot really do that because he was found guilty of embezzlement in another process. But the question is that all Mubarak's aides were cleared by the courts, including the Minister of Interior, the Prime Minister, and are all free now. So the people that made the revolution against Mubarak say that, in fact, nothing has changed. In fact, things are going worse today, and repression is even stronger than in Mubarak's time.
Alexandre Bruchanti there for us in Cairo. Look now at some news in brief. Angela Merkel was in Egypt on Thursday for a meeting with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi about stemming the flow of illegal migration to Europe. She's also heading to Tunisia on the 2-day trip. Both Tunisia and Egypt border Libya, which, in the wake of the Arab Spring of 2011, has become the gateway for African migrants planning on taking the risky journey across the Mediterranean. AU peacekeepers in Somalia say that they and local forces killed at least 57 al-Shabaab militants in an attack on an extremist camp in the town of Ahmado. The AMISOM mission claims that vehicles and equipment were destroyed in Thursday morning's raid and a large cache of weapons captured. Over the years, the insurgents have lost ground in Somalia because of increasing military pressure from Somalia and the African Union. But they continue to carry out deadly attacks in the capital, Mogadishu. In South Africa on Thursday, the military joined in the search for a 5-year-old boy who's been missing down a mine shaft since Saturday. After 6 days underground, hopes are slim that Richard Thole can still be alive. Emergency workers say that the shaft at the Boksburg site near Johannesburg is 140 metres deep and could contain lethal amounts of gas and acidic water. sector. To Namibia now, where negotiations between Germany and the Herero tribespeople are being held up over the terms of restitution. They're drafting a formal apology for the extermination of up to 100,000 Herero people by German troops in the early 20th century. But while Germany is keen to atone for the genocide, it hasn't been able to settle the main demand of Herero descendants, land redistribution. Charles Pellegrin has the story.
Here lies the man who led the rebellion of the Herero people against the German colonial army in 1904. A lone grave in an almost inaccessible field. Most of the victims of the Herero genocide were left to die out in the open when they were driven out to the desert to starve. Half of Namibia's arable land ended up in the hands of the descendants of German and Dutch immigrants. And land is precisely what the Herero want, as the current German government attempts to settle the score.
The most important thing we lost was our land. We'd like to get back the land that was taken away from us.
One attempt at land redistribution was a system of willing seller, willing buyer, where the German government would provide funds for Namibia to buy land from any owners willing to sell. A scheme that so far has failed. In 5 rounds of negotiation, Berlin and Windhoek have not yet managed to agree on a joint statement. Germany's ambassador to Namibia pointed to 3 areas where progress needs to be made.
And the first one is indeed to find a common wording, a common assessment, and a common wording for those events between 1904 and 1908, as the Namibian foreign minister said. Secondly, to talk about an adequate apology on the German side. And thirdly, to see what kind of measures can be additionally introduced in order to, as the German envoy always says, to heal the wounds.
Land restitution is an especially thorny issue with implications outside of Namibia. Any deal for the Herero could set a precedent to other African peoples seeking compensation from European colonial powers.
There's a new kid on the block in Nigeria's film industry, Calliwood. Based in the southern city of Calabar, Calliwood Studios hopes to showcase local films internationally and take its place in the Nollywood limelight. Rosie Collier tells us more.
An amphitheatre outside Calliwood Studios, a fitting location for a gathering of budding actors and filmmakers. Most come from modest backgrounds and some have narrowly escaped addiction, crime and/or prostitution. This 16-year-old chose filmmaking and has recently produced her first movie, Era of Errors.
Most of them smoke weed, some of them take hard drugs. As teenagers, I know of my friends who take all the stuffs, and it's not really good for teenagers, So I lost a lot of friends. This era is just filled with a lot of errors.
What makes Caliwood distinct is that its films are produced in local languages. With language comes a specific culture, although the issue of kidnapping portrayed in Caliwood's first feature-length film is common across Nigeria. One of the key actors in the film had already made his name in Nollywood. The creation of Caliwood has convinced him to relocate from Lagos to Calabar.
I had a friend that actually hinted me about the Caliwood short movie in my dialect, Bete, and I said, okay, fine, since I'm around, I think I have to come over and then so I can promote my culture.
Between them, Caliwood's management team have several Hollywood credits. All of them learn their trade abroad. Their international connections may determine the success of Caliwood.
The film we've just shot now, we're actually premiering it in Las Vegas, we're premiering it in Hollywood, we're taking it worldwide. We've done a music video, and our vision is really, really large for Caliwood Studios. So we are not comparing ourselves with other, we just want to stand out, we want to be unique.
Armed with a pen, these young people's tough life experiences may soon be the subject of culturally specific and thought-provoking films.
Looks great. Well, that's it for Eye in Africa, though. Do join us again if you can. Take care.
نقاش فرانس 24 جدل الآن وحديث وتعليق من وفي كل مكان.
France 24, c'est une passerelle entre les cultures, c'est la diversité.
It's also a great way of sharing it and discussing it on social media.
We give a voice to women and girls, whoever they are, wherever they are.
هل تعرفون باريس؟
أحقاً تعرفونها؟ تابعوا France 24 لمعرفة المزيد.
Tout ce que vous avez toujours voulu savoir sur l'Europe, c'est sur notre chaîne.